Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us. My name is Zach Desjarlais. I am the Director of Instructional Technology from Vancouver Public Schools in Vancouver, Washington. That is just across the river from Portland, Oregon. How do I work the clicker here? Oh, over there. All right, so we're about just a little context of how we are working with the administrators in our district. We're about 24,000 kids, Vancouver, Washington. That's America's Vancouver, just across from Portland, Oregon. We have a weLearn. weLearn One-to-One is our one-to-one initiative. That's the name we gave it. We're in our 6th year. We have about 20,000 devices out in grades 3 through 12. We started with middle school, rolled into high school, and then dropped down to elementary school. And we really led with an instructional focus. So it wasn't a dump and run. There was a lot of planning that went into it and a lot of professional development for our teachers. Tons of professional development. We aligned it to our instructional framework, which kind of brings us to this point here that one of our principals made about 3 years in. And he was asking the question, how do I mentor and support and lead and work with these teachers when I've never been in a classroom with this change of instructional practice, these changes of tools. He knew he was a great principal. He knew what strong instructional practice might look like, best practices, but he was really struggling with how to mentor and coach these teachers. So that leads us to a chopportunity, challenge and opportunity. I'm not sure if that's original or not. If you like it, I created it. No, I didn't. So kind of the challenge piece. So we undersupport building leaders as agents of change. Okay, so it's almost like we expect them to know everything, and they're already crazy busy, and then we give all their teacher devices and all these great tools and all this learning, and kind of left them in the dust. So the opportunity that is the flip side of that is how can we leverage these building leaders to become these powerful and sustainable agents of change? Or maybe another word to put it, if we really think our building principles are the fulcrum of change in our schools, maybe not in our classrooms, but definitely in our schools, then we must be able to support them in intentional ways. We must provide them with opportunities to learn and grow and lead. So how did we do this? I will be honest, when we first started this initiative, it fell flat. And talking with many other districts across the country over this last year, that seems to be a very common theme with trying to work with building principles. You might get a good start, and then it kind of dies off and falls flat. And that happened with us for the first few months until our superintendent came on board and got a lot of encouragement from our executive directors and to continue this, really stick with it. So we went back to the drawing board and we designed it so we had small cohorts. So we have about 70 administrators in our building, and we are working with about 7 to 8 at a time. It's a 2-year commitment. The first year we ask them we're upfront about it. We invite them into it. And up front, we say this is additive work. They do a 2-year commitment. We ask them for the first year to be inquiry, a lot of research-based, or research, and then help us kind of design the program. The second year, they want to give back to their peers, is how we've kind of designed it so far. One of the questions we had is, do we do it so it's high school separate from middle school, separate from elementary school? And at the time, we really didn't know the best route to do this, and we decided to combine them. And I would heavily recommend that. There was so many different perspectives shared at these meetings because of the different levels. So a couple of things about design is we actually did coverage for their buildings. So as we pull them out every 3 weeks for 2 hours at a time. It's a lot of time with these principals. We provided them interns to cover their buildings where they're gone. A little bit of peace of mind. That was one little thing we tweaked that was very helpful. We meet every 3 weeks. We have some type of travel experience for them, whether it be local or at a national conference, to really kind of expose them to what's happening outside of their buildings. And then we always give them opportunities to try and fail and lead and share. And that last one is key because they don't do that naturally. They're busy. And so we really spent a lot of time building relationships with them to get to that point. And I know that's maybe even cliche to some, but that was key in they trust each other now. It's interesting, that first group, well actually the first 2 groups are very, very, very close. So we're in our 3rd group right now. So maybe content, here's some examples of content we cover with them, is SAMR. That would be new to most of them. So it's this technology instructional framework. And then we paired it with our own instructional framework where our principals were very, very strong. That's what they use for evaluation. That's what they use. They're very well versed in it. So we kind of paired that and did a crosswalk activity. The funny thing about that is we do that with the teachers as well, and we have coaches in the buildings, and one of the coaches has been just on the her admin team all year long trying to get them to buy into SAMR, and that admin was at this first meeting and comes back to the building just excited and said, "Have you heard about SAMR?" You know, and Kelsey's like, "Yeah, I've heard about SAMR. We've talked about it all year long." Another topic is what is innovative leadership. We're bringing in different thought leaders throughout the country, either by book, by webinar, by phone call, and allow them to kind of engage in what's happening out there and then discuss how that might look in their own building. My favorite one is the networked and connected leadership. We really get them plugged into building a professional learning network and get them on Twitter, get them on Nextdoor. We really try to get them to build out their social media presence and really control that and use it for their benefit. The next two, blended leadership and personalized leadership. Now, they might not be in a true environment where they can practice blending or they can practice personalization in a teaching sense, but they can help and support and lead and maybe even give permission to their teachers to go down when there's these different instructional practices that their teachers are trying. One of the reasons we started this, we started to see kind of a tension between the teachers in the building trying to do something different and the building principals saying no, and not no because they didn't want to do it, no because they didn't have the context or the understanding as to why they were trying to change their practice. So I will say that after the first year, when we went into this, we didn't know kind of where we were going to end up. We had a list of topics that we thought we were going to cover, but we didn't want to say, this is what we're going to do, and that's it. We also didn't want to go to the principals and ask them, hey, what do you need? Because they didn't really know what they needed. So together in this adventure, we got to the end of year one, and they came up with this. We want to create a vision for their building. And in this sense, we're talking about technology integration. And then we want to support them in them leading that in their building, but also finding out what supports they might need to do that. And the last one, and most importantly, is model. So we want them to model these activities in their building as they would ask their teachers to do. So a couple thoughts I needed to know in order to lead. This is one of our building principals said. This was key because they're getting outside of their four walls. Another principal said this, where he's talking about change in instructional practice, and he tied it to creation. So how are these kids student as creator? And this last quote was around these principals for the first time in their career had the opportunity to give input and own what they were learning that was directly impacting their staff. So really a lot of empowerment there. And to close, maybe, coming back to this vision support model, the first one is vision, and it's key, and we tasked these principals with creating a vision for their buildings, and as a cohort one, this is the vision they came up with, and it is still true today that they are striving to meet this, and most of them would say they're not even close, but this is what they're striving to achieve. Thank you.